Hi everyone. So yesterday I got my new Square chip card reader in the mail and I played with it for a little bit. And so here's what it looks like. It is a lot bigger than the original Square reader right there. I estimate it's at least twice the volume. Um, this thing is pretty hefty. The other thing is that unlike the original Square reader, you're gonna have to charge this thing every night. Um, I get why they had to do this because the this is more autonomous than the original Square Reader, but this it's still a little bit annoying. Hopefully they say that this should last like all day, but it still you didn't have to charge the last one, so this is a little bit of a downgrade. Um, the th- the basically it looks you use it exactly the same way as the original Square Reader. So if I go in and open Square. So first off, you're gonna need to upgrade your Square register to the latest version in order to use this. Um, but so let's do that. Um, it's there's actually a new step there. It says securing connection with the register. So it sounds like a large part of it also has to do with the encryption that it has to do, which is probably why this thing is pretty big. Um, so while I was playing with this, there's a few things you need to keep in mind. The first thing is that Discover is not supported right now, not in chip mode, um, which might which is a little bit disappointing. Hopefully they'll fix that. But just to show you what happens when you do that. Um, oops. Well, first off, I gotta put in $1 minimum. This card not charged. Chip card must be inserted. So that's fine. And it'll say this when you try to insert a Discover card. The error says, I don't know if you can read that. It says chip could not be read. That is because Square doesn't currently support Discover chip. You can swipe Discover fine, but you're gonna have to. The weird thing is you're gonna have to go through the motions of inserting the Discover card, waiting for it to error out before it'll let you swipe. If you try to swipe, it will tell you to insert, which is actually the correct EMV behavior, but it may be annoying if you already know that it doesn't support Discover. So the cool thing is that it actually enforces the service code on the magnetic stripe, unlike certain other retailers like Walmart and apparently Home Depot. So if I were to swipe this other card, it says chip card must be inserted. So, and then that's the other. If I would try to remove it before it finishes, it actually complains, which is another cool thing. I don't want to. I don't. These are my own cards that I'm using, so I'm pretty reluctant to actually charge. But it'll sit through. It'll sit a while reading the chip on the card, and then it'll send the information over for authorization, and it'll basically do exactly the same thing that you do already for MagStripe. So there's literally no difference. There is no chip specific stuff in the application other than those screens and that I just showed you. So there's really no change. And really for $29, this is probably the cheapest way to satisfy the coming October liability shift. I mean, the other options like Verifone or Ingenico are going to cost you hundreds of dollars, and if you're already a Square shop, you're probably going to have to buy, if you're like, for say you're a restaurant, you're going to have to buy restaurant specific POS equipment and restaurant specific back of the kitchen equipment and that sort of thing. So that's something to keep in mind. The advantage of doing that though is you do get access to NFC. The Square Reader, as it is right now, does not support Apple Pay or Google Wallet or PayPass, PayWave. I kind of get why they had to do that, because there's already a whole lot of technology in something this small. So, and I don't think they would be able to put an NFC antenna in this, but, or at least without burning through the battery. But still, it's a little disappointing. I hope that they actually do this for the Square Stand version of this, because that's not as dependent on the battery, so that should be more realistic to do. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, if you go to the settings, it's basically the same stuff as before. You do get the readers for chip cards item on the bottom. That just says that it's connected. It doesn't currently do anything. And if you do activity, it shows your card activity as before. So there's really no difference in the application. It's just a different thing you're plugging in and you're inserting instead of swiping. So that's one cool thing about this. But yeah, there's the other thing. This is that Square charges about 2.7% every time you swipe or insert, even for debit cards. If depending on the merchant provider you go with, you can actually save a fair amount of money, at least for debit cards, well, and possibly for credit as well. But again, you're going to have to balance that between having to buy all brand new equipment, spending hundreds of dollars on it. If you're already using Square, I'd say this is good enough. Other than the few nags, like the Discover thing sounds like it's software fixable, and the NFC thing, it's probably going, maybe they'll do something if you have an Android phone with NFC on it, where it'll use that instead. But who knows? And even if you're not using Square, this at $29, this is a very quick thing to get. Maybe just buy one of these along with an iPhone, or if you already iPhone or Android phone that you already have, and use that for your chip cards while you're getting the money to upgrade the rest of your equipment. So yeah, my recommendation is, I guess, go for it if you're already using Square. My personal opinion is that I think NFC is the long-term trend, and I almost kind of think that your customers will expect to use NFC at some, like Apple Pay, Google Wallet at some point. It might not be now. It might not be within a year, but it will happen. And hopefully Square will come out with some sort of solution to facilitate that. Because their product is actually really, really nice, and it's pretty low hassle, especially for someone like me who does most of their business transactions online and has one of the, like, I have one of these things just because it's not really, I don't do enough in-person transactions to make getting a real merchant account for that worthwhile, especially buying the portable reader that I would need. So for me, this actually works. As with anything, you're gonna have to reevaluate. You're gonna have to evaluate what's best for your business. And I think for most people who are already using Square, this is good for now. So anyway, one more thing. I was trying it with a chip and pin card earlier, and it actually asks for a signature, which is it's expected. There is no pin pad on this. It's impossible to ask for a pin on the phone itself because that it's against PCI and against the card brands and EMV mostly PCI standards to actually do that. You need very special encryption, which and and you pretty much need an external pin pad on this, which of course there's no room to do. So that's the thing. In the U.S., that's not really going to be a problem. There's only two U.S. issued cards that would actually make you fall into the lost and stolen liability shift, which are Diners Club and older USAA credit cards. The rest of them are Visa cards, which don't have that liability shift, or they're chip and signature MasterCards, which can't take advantage of that liability shift. So that's not really, if you're worried about that, that's not really going to be a problem. It might be different if they extended that lost and stolen liability shift to, say, Apple Pay. But I don't really see that happening. I haven't heard of any plans to do that. So for the purpose of the U.S. market, since we are chip and signature, this is basically fine. So yeah, if you have any questions, please leave a note, message me, and yeah.